to talk about mother. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So I wanted to talk about this particular topic for the last month. It's been on my mind, body, soul, spirit, all the things. And I guess the only thing that's really stopped me was just pondering on it. I thought to myself, how do I want to portray this? What's the best way possible to talk about this? I've ran through a million scenarios in my head of how I'm going to start out with this and kind of address this. So when you're a person on social media and you're growing a following, there's going to come some hate. And this video is based on how to deal with hate online and just to kind of talk about this subject, because I feel like a lot of people don't. They might mention it in their vlogs, they might mention it in their videos, but personally, I haven't seen a video solely on how to deal with hate online. And I've talked about this before, but throughout the years, I've had my fair amount of hate. I've had my fair share of hate, negative comments it's usually about my appearance. People like to pick my appearance apart, and there's this inner wounded, I guess there's like this deep wounded child. Like there's this childhood wound that I've been trying to work through because of my appearance. I've kind of been mocked for it my entire life. Like when I was younger, people said that I had bug eyes. When I was growing up as a teenager, I had a lot of acne and like I struggled with really bad BO. And I think there's a time in everyone's life when they weren't very attractive, and like, you know, puberty is just really awkward and it's super weird. And then I got made fun of because I was a tomboy and I did guy things. And I'd be lying if I said that those comments didn't bother me, but I didn't really let it affect me. I did have some pretty low self-esteem, but that stems from childhood and kind of like how my brain was wired. And, you know, I'm not blaming my mom or anything, but my mom, you know, had a very low self-worth about herself, and she really struggled with self-confidence, and she's no longer with us today. She did end up taking her own life about 11 years ago. And I think that that's another reason why this topic's really important for me is, just talking about it, because the people who are already down, it really affects their mental health, and it can really put you in a dark spot. And if you're already in a dark spot, it can make things 10 times worse. I personally know when I'm struggling with depression or anxiety, that's when I take it to heart the most. When I'm feeling happy and good, it doesn't affect me that much, but I feel like when I'm struggling and then that you add a comment on top of it, I really wrestle with that back and forth to think of reasons why they're wrong and stuff like that. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, but yet it kind of does, if that makes any sense. And I'll explain further in this video. I do have some notes written down. I have some references, things I want to go over. When I was in the modeling industry in my early 20s, I was told a slew of things. I was told I walk like a boy, I have dark circles under my eyes, I look anemic, I wasn't physically fit, and at the time I was 125 pounds and I was not okay. I was working out all the time. I was eating super healthy, feeling very guilty for eating a dessert or something like that. And I think I was battling with like kind of an ED. And I was never diagnosed, but I think that that's what it was, because I got kind of obsessed with like macro tracking. Even though I was doing it in a healthy way, there would be times where I felt really lightheaded and I wasn't getting enough nutrients in my body, possibly because maybe I just wasn't eating enough. I was told that, you know, I was too this or I was too that. Like when I modeled in Minnesota, I was told that I was too high fashion to model. And then when I moved out to the East Coast to pursue my dreams of becoming a high fashion model, I was told that I was too commercial. So I was either too this or too that, or not enough of this or not enough of that. And I've been told a lot of different things. I've been told that I have chiclet teeth, that I need to drop my Minnesotan accent. And I'm sorry, but that's just the way I talk. And I'm probably never going to change the way I talk. I sound Canadian. A lot of people think I am. And that's okay, because that's what makes me who I am. Even people that are British or Australian, I think their accents are really cool. It's part of what makes them who they are, because that's where they originated from. It's your roots. I guess the online hate started to come more so recently, like when I jumped on TikTok, and then I jumped on Instagram, and I was doing these social media platforms. Not so much Instagram, I didn't get a lot of hate, because my Instagram isn't very big, but I started to kind of get a real taste of what that felt like and what that was like when I was on TikTok. I would jump on TikTok live, literally minding my own business, listening to my favorite music, talking about God, talking about the things that I was doing in my life, ways that I was healing myself, and I was just talking to people on there because I built sort of this small community, and I was like, oh, this is kind of fun. And then there would come the trolls on there. There would be people picking me apart that, like, at the time I had fire red hair because I did a modeling job, and they put this mask over the red hair to make it more vibrant and kind of accentuate it more because they wanted it to look really good. Obviously, it was an Aveda hair job, which was great. But long story short, I had a person jump on there and tell me to take my wig off, and my feelings weren't hurt, but I was more so just kind of, I couldn't wrap my mind around why somebody would say that, because I know people who struggle with alopecia. I know people who have to wear wigs because their hair's falling out. And it didn't make me angry for myself, it made me angry for all those other people, because I don't think that somebody should have to feel beneath themselves or feel less than because they're wearing a wig because they have a condition, or maybe they even have cancer and they're battling an illness. I think that this day and age, it's very easy to hide behind a screen and be a keyboard coward. I don't call them keyboard warriors because you are not a warrior. If you're gonna leave a nasty comment on someone's page and pick apart their appearance or for the things that they choose to do or the things they say, I call people keyboard cowards because if you wouldn't say it to their face, it's easier to say it behind a screen. Like, people just, they throw it out like ammo. They're miserable in their own lives. And I think one of the most important parts that, like, I have to remind myself of, because this is still something that I'm going through. Like, I'm still building my audience on YouTube. I'm still building my audience on TikTok. And I used to be so angry for not going viral. I was like, does my art suck? Is what I'm saying not good enough? And I couldn't figure out why until I finally kind of gave that up. And there's times like here and there where I'll wrestle with it, but ultimately I pretty much gave it up because I learned why God is making me wait. I learned why I haven't gone viral yet. I learned, and I know now, why none of my videos have skyrocketed, because I'm getting small doses of hate, small doses of people picking apart my appearance. I've had people tell me that I look unattractive because I have tattoos or certain piercings, or people telling me what they prefer in a woman, or guys telling me what they prefer in a woman. And ultimately, I know myself well enough now. Like, granted, maybe 10 years ago it would have really bothered me, but granted, like, now that I'm 30 and I've grown and I'm learning to kind of digest the hate, I'm learning that when people say stuff like that, it's coming from a place of their wounds. It's coming a place of their own fears, their own insecurities. Does it make it right that somebody's gonna blast you online like that and pick you apart and try and make you feel less than? No, it doesn't make it okay. But I think the times, where I have a hard time understanding where people are coming from with comments like that is initially, like, old me would have fired back, because when I was young, I was a spitfire. I still kind of am, but I've mellowed out quite a bit. But when somebody would say something really shitty to me, I'd be like, well, I'd have my fingers ablaze and I would tell them why they're wrong and I'd try to prove them wrong. And at the end of the day, none of it really matters. I think another important thing to remember is when you're getting hate online, what is the real reason why you're online? What is the real reason why you're posting or why you're pursuing your passion? Because at the end of the day, it's not for those people who are going to hate on you. And unfortunately, the people who hate on you are going to make you more well known. You're doing something right in life when people are coming at you, because when you're in your own element and you're living in your truth, and you're living in your calling, and you have your vision focused, and you know what you're going for, and you know what you want, people hate that. People who are afraid to chase after the things that you're chasing after will try and pick you apart because they're envious, because they don't have the balls to do those things in life. They don't have the self-confidence. They're coming from a very wounded space. And whether you believe in God or not, the enemy will try and use those people to come into your life to kind of stir the shit pot, so to speak. And they want to say those mean things to get you to stop creating the content because they see something great within you. I think that if people really genuinely didn't like what you were doing, or like if they didn't see something in you, I guess is what I'm trying to say, they wouldn't sit there and try and pick you apart for being yourself. And I'm just quoting scripture out of the Bible because when I was working a 9-to-5 job that was sucking the life out of me, I would revert to the Bible. I would go to the Bible and God would lead me to these verses to help me through some really hard times. I did like a 21-day fast, and I'm not boasting about any of this. I'm sharing my experience because maybe there's something or a desire in your heart that you want to do something similar. And maybe this is a sign that it's time to do the fast. It's time to sit and, in that safe space with God and just try and hear his voice, because with the noise of the people, I think they're clinkling. But with the noise of people around and all that noise, all that outside noise, sometimes it's so loud that it shuts out God's voice. And I feel like a lot of times, whether it's getting into scripture, whether it's listening to really good music, worship music, or even the music that speaks to you directly, God talks to us in all different ways. We all have a different relationship with him. Maybe there's feathers, maybe you'll see cardinals, maybe you'll see something in the clouds. I don't know. But you know what I'm talking about. If you know what I'm talking about, God will give you signs. And one thing I've learned throughout the last few years, especially this year, is I have to silence the noise of the outside to hear his voice. And this is some of the stuff that he gave me. So this is what I wrote down. Jesus was mocked. It doesn't matter how pure you are, how kind you are, there will be people who hate you for just being you. Jesus was tempted by the devil for 40 days in the desert. Sometimes God will test your character before he elevates you. Can you handle the hate? Can you handle those nasty comments? Are you going to fire back? Are you going to retaliate back? Because sometimes I feel like he tests us to see how much we've grown. There's been a few times where I wanted to lash back out at people. I wanted to tell them why they're wrong. I don't remember where I heard this from, but they say give it 24 hours. You don't have to respond to every comment. You don't have to respond to everything that people say. You can get moderators and start blocking people. That's one of the things that I'm going to start looking into. I think oftentimes people forget that kindness costs $0. It costs you nothing to be a decent human being. Sometimes people who are the trolls online, they're so focused on running away from the things that are haunting them that their eyes are focused on other people. I don't remember if it was Alex Hormozy or Luke Belmar said this, but it's kind of like the $1 million mindset. When you're worried about what people think of you, what they're doing, what their next moves are, sometimes the enemy will use that. And when you're so focused, like he wants you focused on other people. He doesn't want you focused on yourself, because when you're focused on yourself and God's voice or the universe's voice or whatever you believe in, basically what they say is that all of that noise and all of that focus is shifting your mind off of your purpose. It's shifting your mind off of the things that you're supposed to be doing, the things that are going to bring you prosperity, the things that are going to bring you the fruit in your life. If you're jealous of somebody, envious of somebody, the enemy will try and use that to sway your mind. And so it's taking the focus off the plan and the purpose that you have in this life. Like if you're a person who's been online forever, someone that's kind of like me that's been on social media for a very long time, whether it's TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and you've been posting, and you don't know why nothing's happening for you, it's because it's not time. Sometimes God will develop our character, and for a very long time, that was something that was really painful for me. That was something that I struggled with, and sometimes I still wrestle with it. Like I found myself last night and then this morning a little bit. There were a few times where I thought, well, geez, when is it ever gonna happen? Is it ever gonna happen? Am I doing the right thing? And sometimes I think that in that waiting season, we're in this time of preparation. And sometimes it feels like it's never gonna come. Sometimes it feels like, God, when is it my turn? But looking back, even 5 years ago, I never thought I would say this, but I'm so grateful modeling didn't work out at the time. My self-esteem was shit. My attitude sucked. I was depressed. I just got off of antidepressants. I was a mess. The majority of my 20s, I really struggled after my mom died. And it's not an excuse, but I've done so much healing and I've done so much work on myself. I reflect back, like I was talking to a couple of my friends at church today, and I was like, I really sat down and thought about it, and I wasted so much of my 20s. Granted, it wasn't a waste because I learned a lot. I healed a lot. I have all these tools, and I'm like a book of knowledge when it comes to fighting mental health. I'm a book of knowledge when it comes to experiences. I feel like God gave me all of those experiences and all of these hard times so I could better understand people. They say be careful what you pray for. Years ago when I was younger, I prayed to understand people better. I lost my best friend, my mom. She died. I was very angry with God about that. God used that pain to ignite my healing journey through art. God used the pain to help other people. God used the pain to relate to other women that have lost their moms, even guys. I talked to this little boy in Belize a couple years back. Maybe it was a year and a half ago. And he told me that he lost his dad, and I was able to be there for him because I knew what to say, because I went through a similar experience. And his family was basically telling him like, oh, just forget about it, don't think about it, and this and that. And I looked at him and I said, look, here's the thing, and I'm not saying this because I'm some miraculous, amazing person. I'm saying this because somebody else might need to hear it. And I told him, I said, please don't do that. Please don't pretend it didn't happen. Please don't run away from the emotions. I said, because I did for a very long time and I struggled. I was not happy. I was very sad. And I told him that it was very hard for me. The more that I ran from it, the worse that life got. And I told him, I said, you know what, kiddo? I said, the best thing that you can do for yourself is to heal through that, is to sit in those emotions. I said, honey, if you need to cry, cry. You need to cry about it, cry about it. I said, even if you're a boy, it's okay if you cry. And it might have changed the kid's life. It may have not, but God has used my pain to really help a lot of people. I went through pretty bad fights with family members in the past, and I learned a lot out of it, and I've learned to take responsibility for my actions. I'm reading this book right now. Let me grab it real quick. Pastor Amy actually gifted this to me. This is like one of the best books I've probably ever read. It's The DNA of Relationships by Gary Smalley. And it basically talks about how really, if there's like an argument, no one's ever really right. We all have our core fear. We all have our root problem, our thing that we run from. And it's kind of like, how am I trying to explain this? I have to pull it up here. So it has like little charts. And I love this book because I'm a visual person. I love stuff like this. But up here, it says, we can't live without, so we fear. So like for myself, and I'm just going to call myself out, we can't live without commitment, so we fear abandonment. That's one thing that I'm really working through right now. We can't live without significance, so that leads to feeling unimportant. We can't live without affection, so we feel like we're disliked and we're constantly in our head feeling like not everybody, like nobody likes us or everybody's mad at us. That was one thing that I used to struggle with a lot, and I'm still guilty of it now, but I always think that everyone's mad at me, and at the end of the day, it's not about me, it's not about you. A lot of times it's about what's going on in other people's lives. You know you've grown is when you can take responsibility for the things that you've really done in your life. Alright, so I do have another verse here that really helped me get through some dark times. It's 2 Corinthians chapter 12, I believe. I wrote this all down. All of these were in my journal, and it says, but he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, my power is made perfect in weakness. So whatever you're struggling, God will use that as your strength. Say you struggle with fear of being on stage. God will use that fear and he'll work something in you to work through those emotions. And there's a reason that that's there. Maybe down the road you'll help somebody else that fears being on stage or has a lot of anxiety. I think one of the biggest things in life is to, I guess, not really look at our weaknesses as a weakness, like acknowledge that it's a weakness, but there's tools that we can utilize to work through them. We're always going to be healing. We're always going to be evolving. We're always going to be working through really hard things in life. And right now, personally for me, it's learning to deal with hate online. And I think it's just understanding that that's part of the process and that there are going to be people who leave mean comments. But at the end of the day, just think of the impact you're making. Think of the lives that you're changing. Even if it's a 10 or 12-year-old kid online that watches your videos and you're talking positively about something, don't let somebody's comment about your hair or the way that your makeup is deter you from your purpose, deter you from inspiring a generation, because this generation of children needs us. This generation of children needs strong voices, people who stand up for what they believe in, people who keep going regardless of the hate, regardless of the setbacks in life. I have a couple more verses here. It's Romans chapter 12, verse 2. It says, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will." So that again comes back to, like, I want to recircle back to, I forgot who said this, but this term, I don't remember
who said it, but it's almost like drinking the poison.
God, I can't spit my words out today. It's almost like drinking the poison and expecting the other person to die. Say you have a boat engine and there's a leak. This is the best way I can think of it. And you're on a lake, your boat's leaking, it's leaking gas and it's getting into the water, or there's a huge oil leak and all the fish die. What I'm trying to say is you're in charge of how much is going into the water. You're in charge of how much gasoline is going into the water. Are you gonna let it affect you? Or are you gonna let it piss you off? There's times where I am angry about something that somebody said, and I allow myself to sit in those emotions, and I really ask myself, like, Tyler, where's that coming from? And a lot of times it's from my childhood. A lot of times it's coming from a deep core wound that, you know, not really ever feeling like I was accepted in this lifetime and not really feeling like people really understood me. And so I think what those things do is it like compacts and it brings your mind back to the wiring of confirming that that's true. Like it's compounding it. It's like, oh, well, so-and-so said this, so this must be true about me. I must be a POS. I must be worthless. And at the end of the day, we are responsible for what we let in. And I am guilty of this. I'm human, you're human, but I just want you to know that if you're creating content and if you're getting hate and people are being really shady and they're being really mean to you, sometimes you just need to take a step back. Take a break from it. Don't, like, maybe go for a span where you don't read comments. I think down the road here, the more successful I am on social media, I was listening to this, well, God, I'm so ADHD, but I was listening to this girl talk. She was a social media influencer. Maybe it was a girl or a guy, but they said basically, like, turn off your comments and don't read it first thing in the morning. Give yourself some time to sit on things. Like, don't read your comments till like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, because if you read a really bad comment, that can set the mood for your entire day. So here's another Bible verse too. It's Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verse 3. It says, "For a dream comes with much business, and a fool's voice with many words." Moral of the story, the less you say, the better. I know, after an argument, if you're anything like me, you sit back and think, oh man, I should have said this and it would have been so much better. And the fact of the reality is, none of it would have made it any better, because who wants to argue with people? That means then you have bad feelings and you have to make up and explain why you're wrong and how they hurt you and how you hurt them. And it's like this big chaotic mess. And flying off the handle at people was something I used to be pretty good at. I'm just gonna say, like, I've grown a lot since I was in my youth, and I know that a lot of us can confirm this, but I've learned throughout the years, the less I say, the better, because man, words can cut like a knife, and especially if you're getting hate online, you know what that feels like. Whatever somebody says or whatever you say, you can't take it back. It's said, it's done. You can be forgiven, but I feel like I'm a firm believer that people don't forget. You know, people don't forget those things. I'm not saying hold them against you, but they're kind of like offenses, you know? Not that anyone's keeping score or anything, but sometimes it's just we're better off keeping our dang mouths shut. So it'd be nice if the trolls online would be quiet too, but unfortunately we can't really, you know, control that. So, also, let's see here. All right, so I remember in my early therapy days when I was like 16? No, I was 18. In my early therapy days, my first therapist ever, she'd be like, well, I have this recommended book. And I'm like, lady, I don't read books. I hate reading books. I don't have time to read books. I used to think that I never had time to read books. Well, 30-year-old me thinks otherwise because I'm doing this 75 hard challenge. And I've been reading books. Sometimes I have to read the page 4 or 5 times to understand the material or the paragraph, but it's fine because sometimes I need to take breaks. But, you know, ironically, I found that reading is the one thing that kind of puts my mind at ease. So if you say that you're not a reader, I didn't think I was either until I started reading again. There is nothing that calms me more than reading a book. Meditation, working out, going for a walk in nature, there is nothing that puts me more at ease because this will damn near make me fall asleep. But there's 2 books that I read. The first one is The Courage to Be Disliked. I really like this book. I'm gonna do... I never thought I'd say this, but I'm gonna end up doing a book review one of these days because I'm starting, like, I've finished 3 books so far and I'm on my 4th one. And then I have a 5th and also probably a 6th in mind. This book specifically talks about... I have some stuff underlined. Oh, here we go. Here's a good one. It says, if you're not living a life for yourself, then who's going to live it for you? Kind of all over the place in this video, but I feel like this is going to be helpful for somebody. Even if it helps one person, I did my due diligence. Wishing so hard to be recognized will lead to a life of following expectations held by other people who want you to be this kind of person. In other words, you throw away who you really are and live other people's lives. Sound familiar? I know in the past that used to be me. Not so much anymore. It kind of comes with experience, you know? It comes with time, it comes with age, it comes with acceptance, it comes with really being honest with yourself about like who you really are. Do you like you? I know I didn't for a very long time. I like who I'm becoming. I love who I am. I actually have a good relationship with myself, and it's not like, I love me so much. It's nothing like that. It's, I'm content. I'm okay with Tyler. Are there still times where I struggle? Yes, because I'm human, but I'm a work in progress. The second book here is The Courage to Be Happy. The Courage to Be Disliked, I like this book better, but this one has some useful stuff in it as well. But it talks about like problem behavior and like even adults and children. But it says like the first stage of problem behavior is the demand for admiration. So I came on YouTube here with the mindset of I'm gonna be who I am, authentically me, I'm gonna say what I want, what I feel. There have been times where I've deleted videos because I was really upset and I was venting. I was like, yeah, I'm not putting that out there, because the next day I changed my mind, my heart space changed as well. But back to what I was trying to say here is the courage to be disliked. Who cares if people don't like you? Not everybody has to. And the years that I spent people pleasing the crap out of people for them just to like me, what a waste of my time, because the people who genuinely love you, they will love you for who you really are. Sorry, I'm kind of tripping over my words today. I don't know if I'm just tired or whatever, but but that's what I was saying back to the YouTube thing. I came on this channel with the mindset of this is my chance to be Tyler for the first time in 30 years. For the first time in my life. Obviously, I've always been me. I'm the only one living in my body. This is the space where it's safe to be me. This is the space where I can be myself and people don't have snide remarks or have little like opinions of what I'm saying. People can say whatever they want to about me, but hey, you know what? I'm in my own little world in front of this camera, and I'll tell you what, I'm getting pretty dang comfortable in front of it. And I don't know, I hope this video made sense. I know I was kind of all over the place in it, and I kind of made quite a few different points, but all of it coincides. All of it coincides with not caring what people think. All of it coincides with building a good relationship with yourself. All of it coincides with the people who hate on you or leave really crappy comments have a deep-rooted hurt inside. And the best thing that I can say to people who leave me a bad comment is, I hope you heal. Jeez. Because some of this stuff that people say, I'd be like, I can't even wrap my mind around it, because you gotta be pretty low in life to say something mean to somebody like that. So anyway, I'm gonna get off my soapbox. I hope today's video helped you out some. I try not to get too biblical, but also that's a part of my life that I'm not gonna be ashamed of, and I'm not gonna hide that part of myself, because this is gonna get kind of vulnerable. But I can't tell you how God has changed my life in so many ways. For the better. He's really transformed it, and there's been hard times and there's been things that have happened, but I can't thank him enough for what he's done in my life. So you're dang right. You know what? I might cuss, I might swear. I've never claimed to be a perfect person, and there's people who aren't gonna like that about me, but you know what? I love God. He's my best friend, and he's got me through some pretty dark moments. Without him, I would have maybe ended up like my mom. He shed the light in my life when the lights were turned off and I was alone. So anyway, thanks for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Peace out, homages.